Welcome back to the Fantasy Hockey Podcast. It is just me, Brandon, once again. Gamby is actually in Miami doing an event for Underdog. Unsurprisingly, if you're looking at YouTube, I'm wearing the Underdog shirt. That is where a lot of our time has gone lately. Underdog being very NFL focused with the NFL draft right at the same time as the either championship or the beginning of the championship week for NHL playoffs is bad timing. And that's why we haven't been able to produce as much and why Gamby's not on for this or the last episode. But, all good things on that front. If you haven't checked us out yet, underdogfantasy.com. Promo code FHP will get you a free $25 no matter what your deposit is. We're not officially sponsored, but we both work there, and that's if you're into sports, including NHL, but especially NFL or anything like that. We have a massive tournament we're launching. $3.5 million prize pool, $1 million to first. It's a format called Best Ball. You just do the draft, and we automatically will bench players for you each week. It's actually as I've gotten more used to playing those formats, I'm starting to like traditional fantasy a little bit less. And actually, I designed the listener leagues around a best ball format, despite you can't actually do that on Yahoo. I think you can on Fantrax, but you can on Underdog. So we'll be having an NHL best ball as well, which, yeah, when you look at these last few weeks in the NHL, it's been so difficult to manage bench properly and late scratches. Shea Weber, Jonathan Marchessault, even Ovechkin when he went out was super late scratch. So it's been really difficult to manage that kind of thing. And best ball taking that out of there just gives you that little bit of peace of mind. I don't think it's for everybody. I think it's the way I think about best ball is it attracts two different types of people. One are the people that don't really want to do that many drafts and are the types that typically will ruin a league. They will draft, they'll play the first 5 or 6 weeks, and then they're gone. The draft is honestly the most fun part of any league. So best ball kind of focuses on that. And then on the other side of it are people like me that are in a million leagues, and then it becomes overwhelming to manage them all properly. Don't have to do the best ball, just do your draft, and that's it. And it really lets you take those swings in drafts that probably don't make sense in traditional season-long leagues. Drafting a guy like Jason Robertson, for example, just as like a maybe, a long shot with your last pick that may not have made sense to do in a traditional league. Anyway, I didn't mean to sit here and plug Underdog, but that is what's going on, and sort of what's going on with us and why we've been a little bit slower. This is going to be the last official episode for the season, probably. But when I say for the season, don't expect anything on Wednesday, and obviously, the weekend is just an overblown Saturday. There's not really a lot of advice to give. So this will be the last episode of the season. Doesn't mean we won't do anything else this year or throughout the playoffs or whatever. But as far as the fantasy season concerns, this is the last one. We will be doing sit start Saturdays on this coming Saturday. It's a big important Saturday, obviously, if you're in the finals of your championships or whatever. I think we had a pretty bad list of suggestions this past Saturday, but take our advice with a grain of salt. Okay, going into the actual episode here, I'm going to go ahead and start out with the injury report. There's a troubling amount of stuff on this report. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is the first one that shows up here over in Buffalo. Really, he had a pretty good, few games when he was given the reins there. Allmark being out was what gave him that opportunity. He was running with it, and now he's day-to-day. Undisclosed, don't really know what's going on. Adam Boquist is next up here. He's out for season with a broken wrist. He's only on here because that sort of opens a door for Duncan Keith, which is interesting. By the way, if you're looking at the YouTube, it is actually nobody's birthday. It's nobody's birthday. Those balloons are from a friend of my wife's who said that Victor would like them, and he does like them. So that's why they're attached to his high chair, as you can see there. Anyway, so Adam Boquist out for season. Opens the door for Duncan Keith in Power Play 1. It doesn't really matter that much, but it does give him a little bit of boost for those of you in blocks leagues and stuff, and he's going to show up, spoiler alert, as a pickup option. Over in Colorado, we've got Sam Girard and Ryan Graves. Girard is effectively done for the season. I would consider both of them done for the season, for the fantasy season. It doesn't really change a lot, unfortunately. I don't think there's anybody you can really replace. You can make the argument that maybe Devon Taves gets a little bit more ice time. Cale Makar maybe gets a little bit more ice time. But I think for the most part, it's not really going to – there's no pickup options that I think come out of that. Patrick Laine should be dropped already, but he's sick also, in case you need another reason to get rid of him. Denis Gurianov is day-to-day with an upper body injury. Patrick Hornquist is once again day-to-day with an upper body injury. We've got Chris Drieger day-to-day with lower body injury, which is making the goalie race over there pretty interesting as they're giving Spencer Knight his reps here and there. I still kind of assume that it's going to be the Bob show in playoffs, but I could see them splitting starts for the rest of the fantasy playoffs. Shea Weber's day-to-day with an upper body injury. Victor Arvidsson is again out with an upper body injury. Chris Kreider is day-to-day with a lower body injury. Torrey Krug is day-to-day with an upper body injury. Vladimir Tarasenko is day-to-day with lower body injury. And John Carlson is day-to-day with lower body injury, which makes Justin Schultz an interesting option for those that have an availability to him. Funny thing is, I didn't actually put him in the short-term targets, but he absolutely should be a target. As far as returning, we actually have a lot on this list as well. Philip Forsberg returned. I honestly, I got to the point where I was just never expecting him to come back, but he's back. Adam Ernie's back. For those of you that love those completely unsustainable but somehow did it for the whole season types that also hit, seems to be a lot of those this season. Looking at Sam Bennett, who actually is sustainable at this point, the way he's being deployed, and Mackenzie Weegar, obviously, who just, I don't know. Tyler Seguin is very close to returning, which has implications over there for, I think, Roope Hintz would be my guess at who is going to be the most affected. And then Evgeny Malkin is also very close to returning, probably will this coming week. And I think the most affected over there is going to be Jared McCann, probably. Basically about who gets bumped from the top power play in both of those situations. Jonas Donskoy returned, and Mikko Rantanen returned. Those combination completely devalues Andre Burakovsky. So if you still have him, you're holding a bag at this point. I know that he scored in the last game, but the opportunity just won't be there anymore for him. He's lost his power play one slot. He's lost his top right wing. That was kind of the whole reason a lot of us had him. I don't really think that he's worth holding necessarily, other than the fact that he has 4 starts. And just because of that, if you have him, it might be worth it. Philip Grubauer is next up here as well on the returning side of things. I'm sure a lot of you are happy to see him. Justin Schultz returned to take over that top spot from John Carlson. Roope Hintz, I think we can finally list as returned from whatever lingering injury he had, or at the very least, they're going to play him until he dies because they need to get those points. So we'll see with him. Makes me worried about what's going to happen. If we see an off-season surgery type thing for Roope Hintz, sounds kind of plausible at this point, considering how long that injury has lingered for him. Teuvo Teravainen returned and, came right back to form. So good for him. And then lastly here, John Klingberg returned as well. As far as drop candidates, I think unsurprisingly, the way drops are going to work are going to be strictly based on the schedule. So the first one is basically anybody from Calgary. It's pretty tough to make the argument to hold on to them. If you are going to hold on to them, who do you hold on to? Maybe Gaudreau, you can make there. Maybe Lindholm. Those, it's hard. It's hard to really make that argument. So let's say you do hold on to them. I think you can ignore Monday because Monday is such a heavy schedule, but you're missing a Tuesday start and you're only getting that Wednesday start. And Sunday, I'll go more into this in the week preview, but Sunday is not going to count for almost all of you. Probably everybody listening to here, it won't count unless you've manually extended your league for some reason, which you shouldn't have, considering how late Yahoo gave the opportunity to do that. The Flames only play one game this week, essentially. It's against the Jets on a Wednesday, which is a heavy game night, sort of, with 9 games played. You might have bench issues that day anyway. It makes them very, very difficult to recommend holding on to. And if you do hold on to them, you obviously have to drop them on that Wednesday because you're not going to get any more starts. So, Detroit as well. They only have 2 starts, and one of them is on a heavy game night on Saturday where you are almost certainly going to be benching. You're not going to hold on to anybody from Detroit until Friday, so let's be honest. Detroit are literally all droppable. The entire team is droppable for this week. Florida as well is in a similar situation. You can play your guys Monday because Monday's Monday. But after that, I don't know. This is a real tricky one because you can make the argument for guys like Sam Bennett. But it depends on who your other drop options are. is it's it's really tough. It's really tough to argue for keeping them after Monday, because you're basically saying, I want to have this player play me 0 more games this week until Saturday. And when I play him Saturday, I will be benching somebody for him. So you're guaranteeing yourself to get the absolute minimum of starts if you do that. And Monday as well, you have to bench somebody for that player, most likely, as there's 14 games that day too. So Florida is a really interesting option. It's tough to say what you do there. I feel like in a lot of cases, dropping, crazy as it sounds, dropping like a Huberdeau makes sense after Monday, because you can easily squeeze in 3 starts for him. You know, you get somebody that starts Tuesday and Thursday and then swap for a Friday. That's 2 adds, but that's 3 starts that you're getting for one player, for one drop. And it's going to be very difficult for even Huberdeau to make up 3 replacement level starts. I don't see him doing it. This is all situational. You really need to pay attention to your team comp and like who else you could be dropping. But championships are about maximizing starts, and that's like the start and finish of it, honestly. If I had any Florida players, even like the Barkovs and Huberdeaus of the world, I would heavily consider dropping them on Tuesday, depending on your other options. Now, if you have other like low start options that are more droppable, then do that. But that's a lot of giving up starts to hold on to Florida players. I think it's going to cost people championships. Florida specifically, I think will cost people championships. Calgary sort of, but just don't with Calgary. And then lastly here, Winnipeg and Nashville also have they have weak schedules in that they play all the heavy game nights and they only play 3 nights, both of them. They play Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Now, Monday and Saturday, both, like I already mentioned, are 14-game slates. Wednesday's only 9, so you might be okay there. But it's kind of the same deal with where I think about with kind of Calgary and Florida, where, Monday and Saturday you're benching somebody for them probably, and then Wednesday okay, but also hard to recommend. I think Forsberg and Yossi are the guys that you're gonna bench people for, so you hold on to them probably. Anybody else? Nope. In fact, I don't even know who else you'd even hold on that team. Maybe Saros, I guess. All right. Moving to the week preview. I already mentioned this, but Sunday does not count for the vast, vast majority of leagues. On Yahoo, at least, you would have had to manually change your league settings to allow it, and they only even offered that way, way late, maybe like a week ago. So, first of all, I shouldn't have done it, except for maybe in a roto where you can make the argument where everybody agrees, but it's tough to agree because I think people would have made adjustments because of this. Anyway, no team this week has more than 2 off nights. The off nights are Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And Wednesday, you can make the argument that Wednesday is an off night, but because it's only got 9 games, which barely qualifies. But even if you did, still nobody gets more than 2. So I think Edmonton has a very, very good schedule. They have 2 off nights, and they get to play Vancouver the entire week. There's a ton of goals. My league that I'm still in that goes through the 8th, I have to play against McDavid, and I basically consider the league lost because of McDavid alone. It's insane how valuable he's going to be this week. It's rough for me, but we'll see. And then the last bit here, I find Montreal and the Rangers are both pretty interesting in the way that their schedule is, in that, let's say you only have 1 streamer spot. You could move, or maybe 2. You should find a way to have 2 this week, probably. But you can move somebody on Tuesday, and then move them again for somebody, a Canadian or a Ranger, for Wednesday and Thursday. They're the only 2 teams that play Wednesday and Thursday, if that Wednesday is available to you, and then move again on Friday. So that's 2 moves, possibly 3, depending on if you have that player to start with or not. But that's the absolute way you can maximize your starts the most, is by doing that. So it makes those 2 teams a little bit interesting when you're looking for somebody to swap in on Wednesday, but if you need to. But unfortunately, it's not a whole lot of targets, especially on the Rangers. Okay, moving into targets, I think Duncan Keith is kind of a target. Again, this would mean that you are in a blocks league, I think. But his schedule is pretty decent. He plays that Monday, which you're probably going to bench him for, but you could swap to him for the Tuesday, Thursday starts. He's only 19% roster right now. Good block guy, like I mentioned. Has that top power play exposure. We'll see on the points. He has been shooting a bit more lately than usual for him. I expect him to get a point or two and get you pretty good blocks. There's the upside of him being able to get a power play point as well. Maybe more than one if you're lucky. All right, next up here is Chandler Stevenson. This is assuming that Wednesday is an okay night for you. Play him on Wednesday and Friday. He is probably the best, well, maybe not the best, but one of the best sub 50% rostered players right now. He's been playing top line, top power play. He's been very good for a little bit now. We talked to him quite a bit on the Sit Start Saturday episode, but he's worth a look. Next up is Igor Sharangovich over in New Jersey. He plays all positions, center, left wing, right wing. He's 9% rostered. He has bad matchups. He's playing against Boston twice and then the Islanders twice. And again, he plays Monday, Saturday because basically everybody does. But fact of the matter is he's been very hot. He gives you a ton of flexibility. And I really think even with the bad matchups that he has the potential to be able to do something here. It's a deeper league move. I think there's better options in shallow leagues, but I do think he's somebody to look at. Next up is Oliver Bjorkstrand, left wing, right wing, 52% rostered. So this is, again, you have to have that Wednesday available, but he plays Nashville twice and then Detroit twice. Now, Nashville has been difficult to score on lately, but Bjorkstrand's actually been pretty good in the interim, and I think he's kind of the only Blue Jacket to be considering. And a lot of people are dropping Blue Jackets, especially because of their short schedule last week. But they have as many starts as anybody else, and essentially the same amount of off nights as long as that Wednesday is not a bench night for you. So Bjorkstrand is a good option. He's 52%, which is a little high for what I like to recommend here, but still somebody to look at. Another one that's also high is Nick Suzuki. He's on Montreal, like I mentioned, as a team that I like to target, as you can get that Wednesday, Thursday start if you need it for the double start. Those two games are against Ottawa and then against Toronto. Toronto's not a great start, but they're not impossible to score on either. Ottawa's Ottawa. And Suzuki's been on fire. So the fact he's only 50% rostered is pretty surprising to me, if I'm honest. But he's a good look. And then, if you're looking for a cheaper kind of guy, Joel Armia as well, left wing, right wing. He's only 3% rostered. He's a hitter. He's been playing the same line. I don't want to call it top line because the top three lines in Montreal kind of get rotated around. And the same power play unit as Suzuki. He's been picking up points here and there, not a ton, but he does hit as well. 3%, so this is a deeper league move, but somebody to pay attention to if you're looking for a surprise. And then my last option here is in a similar vein. Again, you have to have that Wednesday available to you, and that is Trevor Zegras, 6% rostered. Since he came back from the AHL stint to practice, being a center, which is the intention to begin with, he's been quite good. He's been getting good minutes. He's point per game since coming back, which is only 3 points in 3 games. But I think that he is making an impact, and I think that we're going to see him stay as a center, and I think we're going to see him stay as a top-line center from this season into next season. And I think he's starting to make himself interesting in keeper leagues. Now, typically in most keeper leagues, I really shy away against going after super young players, and I still do. So if you're looking at keeping Zegras, I would want the league to be minimum keep 8 in like a 10 or 12 person league. Even then, even keep 8, like I don't think I'm blowing an 8th rounder on Zegras. And so you're really making a bid into the far future for him. I don't really like to play that way. I like to try to win every season. So keep 10 is probably where I kind of draw the line where I'm like, all right, I can probably gamble with my 10th rounder on Zegras being good next season. But, I imagine, like, shorter than that, most people are going to be keeping him anyway, especially considering how he's playing throughout the end of the season this year. That kind of does it. It's crazy. This season has felt so long and so short at the same time. I just think that it's probably because of how much focus was needed to perform well in this season. And if you did, hats off. Great job for being able to keep up with what felt like a constantly changing schedule and an extremely difficult management scenario just in general. So good for you if you had a good season. I notoriously didn't. This is probably my worst season ever. But, I'll blame COVID. It seems fair enough. but yeah, it was a tough one. And I'm looking forward to getting back to regular hockey next season. Hopefully, cross your fingers on that one. But, all signs point fairly positive. We'll see what happens as far as how the scheduling works out. Also super excited, obviously, to have the Seattle Kraken in the league. Going to be an interesting offseason in general. Would love to see who they wind up rostering now that they're able to, sign and trade already. So gonna be fun. I wonder, if I were to take a shot in the dark as far as cup favorites, just to kind of guess at it. Honestly, I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought, but you gotta make the argument for Carolina as cup favorites. You could obviously make the argument for Colorado. I feel like they're probably the de facto standard. Or, I assume if I were to look at a sports book and figure out who has the highest chance right now, I would guess it's Colorado or maybe Vegas, or maybe Tampa. But I'm really in Carolina's boat right now. They have been very, very good in a very tough division for the most part. It's hard to see them, and they're so complete compared to a lot of the other teams. So I'm in the Carolina camp personally, although I'd love the Islanders to win, of course. All right. I think that will wrap it up. So, thank you. If you stuck with us this whole season, thank you for being here. If this is your first season, I hope we helped. I hope that we were able to, get you in the playoffs at least, get you in the championship. Win the championship would be the best, obviously. But I think first and foremost, we hope that you had fun. We hope that we made your day a little bit better when you listen to us. Obviously, we try to be a little bit analytic focused on this show. We're not always like goofing around or whatever. We try to keep it light, but at the same time, this is an analytics and kind of information first show. So I hope you enjoyed it regardless. It's been a year or a season, or not even a season. I don't even know. I don't know. It's been 56 games almost. So thank you for sticking with us. Show up on Saturday. It'll be fun. Thanks for listening.